Hello! Hello. Welcome to BTN Live. I'm Jack, and this is Farmer Joe. Yeah, and you don't look very happy, Farmer Joe.
I'm not.
Oh,
Do you want to know why?
I, what? I guess, yeah, probably.
Cane toads.
Oh,
They exist, and I don't like them. It was beetles, but now it's cane toads.
oh, why? What's wrong with the cane toads?
Because the cane toads were meant to help me get rid of the beetles, but they didn't. They just came to Australia, became a pest, and are now killing native animals.
Oh, all right. Well, that answers Steve's question from William Carey Christian School, who said, "Why, Joe? Why is Joe getting angry?" There you go. It's the cane toads.
That's why.
And that's what we're talking about today. These, I was going to say little guys, but they're quite big actually in real life, aren't they?
They can be very big. Yes, there's. I think some people have found up to 2 kilos. These huge.
2 kilos.
Yeah, these huge, small dog-sized creatures. But
That's
usually
like-
they're about that big. Oh, there we go. There's the big.
Here we go.
Here's the big toad. Look
Oh
at that.
my goodness. I was going to say, has anyone encountered a cane toad? I want to know. I don't believe I have, ever. But you have.
Yes, I grew up around cane toads. I grew up in Darwin, so if you're from the north of Queensland or the NT or maybe the north of WA, you've probably encountered cane toads at some point. If so, you should let us know in the chat in the questions.
Send it through. What did you say?
Screen's gone.
Out and the screen behind us is gone. It's all right. Good time. Now,
These cane toads, they keep messing with us.
We are not joined by a guest today, except for Farmer Joe, but we do have some answers coming in from Dr. Andrew Lowe, who's from the Environmental Department at the University of Adelaide.
Yes, that's correct.
I believe, who is going to help us answer some of these questions that we've got going in. And if it is possible, I believe we're going to get a bit of an introduction from Dr. Andrew about who he is and why he's the person to talk to about cane toads.
Hi, I'm Professor Andy Lowe, Director of the Environment Institute at the University of Adelaide. At the University of Adelaide, we do a broad range of environmental research from encouraging biodiversity recovery, restoration and control of invasive species, right through to controlling pollution and adapting our systems ready for climate change. So we saw there a little bit about cane toads, the problem that they're causing, millions of cane toads around northern Australia, and also their history of introduction. We did a series on ABC called Eat the Invaders with Tony Armstrong, who was the presenter for that. And actually there's one episode which is completely dedicated to cane toads, going through the history of introduction right through to some of the ways to actually control those. And there are some really innovative ways of controlling cane toads. We've saw some of them in the brief clip there. But other things include being able to harness the toxin of the cane toads and releasing that into water, which actually makes the cane toads become cannibalistic and they actually eat their own larvae, which is a little grotesque, but it's a kind of biocontrol method. And the other interesting aspect of cane toads is that the natural fauna have actually started to adapt to cane toads. So particularly birds, the cane toads have poison glands on their backs. So if you eat a cane toad from the back, the animal will become poisoned. But if you flip the cane toad over and eat it from its stomach, then the animal or bird can have a delicious meal on the cane toad without engaging with the poison glands. And there's some evidence that this behaviour is starting to be spread through bird populations just by mimicking the action of birds that have worked it out. So I think with some of these invasive species, when we see them first invade, they can cause a huge amount of problems within our natural systems. But slowly over time, many of our systems start to adapt to these invasive species and start to take on adaptations. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need to control those, because clearly we do, or else they're going to continue with the havoc that they cause.
There you go. It's not straightforward, is it? It's not just tell the cane toads to get out of here.
No, it is not that easy, unfortunately.
No, and it's...
But there are many, obviously, very creative and interesting ways to control cane toads.
Yes, and yeah, as you heard, Professor Andrew Lowe, he's on top of that. He also mentioned the show Eat the Invaders, which is an ABC program which, yeah, as you can see there, where you learn to eat
Yep.
the invaders.
They have
the
a
cane
bunch of
toads.
episodes for different invasive species, and in each episode they find ways to make dishes, delicious food, out of each of the various invasive species. And cane toads was one of them. I watched that episode, and it seems yucky, but apparently it tasted really good.
What did they make?
It was a very... Yeah, you have to watch it. You have to watch it.
That's true.
It's
I just don't
very
know if
fancy, very fancy looking dish.
Okay, that's how they disguise it.
Exactly,
make
yes.
it look very fancy. Because the idea of eating one of those makes me not want to eat. Actually, it takes
Yeah.
away my appetite.
What about like a regular frog? You know, like in France they have frogs.
No,
Is that not your thing either?
No, not really.
Fair enough. I wouldn't either.
Now, so we have got a couple of questions that have been sent in that Andrew is going to answer for us. So I'm going to get to those. And the first one is from Don from East Adelaide School. Hey, Don.
G'day, Don.
Right around the corner. What is the most common invasive
That's the one you guys answer.
species? Oh, sorry, that's what we answer.
Oh,
We know the answer to this, don't we? It's a rabbit.
it is.
I did know that.
Yep. Rabbit
There you
is
go,
the most
rabbits.
common invasive species.
Rabbit
Species.
pie.
Rabbit pie.
There you go. That's a
There you go.
very common thing to eat.
Is that actually a thing? Rabbit pie.
Rabbit pie, yeah.
Is it? I've never-
Rabbit stew.
I've never actually eaten rabbit.
Just rabbit on its own. Yeah, I
Rabbit
haven't
on its
eaten
own,
it either,
yeah.
but I do know rabbit stew is, pie is definitely a thing. So there you go, rabbits. And there is something, but cats cost the most. There you go.
There you go. Cats are invasive species as well. If
So-
you own a cat, you own an invasive
Invasive
species.
yeah.
Yes.
So don't let it out.
No. There's actually lots. I don't know if is it Australia wide? There's lots of rules in various parts of Australia that you're not allowed to let cats roam free.
There are, in
ACT.
ACT, yep.
There's many other places where you can't let them just roam free. I mean, like
South
if
Australia
you,
as well, yeah.
but I wouldn't want to anyway because I just think it's so dangerous. I mean, I have a dog, and I would never let that dog roam free. But maybe dogs are a little different. Now we're going to get to the answers from Andrew, and we're going to start with a double header from Alexandra and Aggie, from New Haven College in Victoria. How do you classify a species as invasive species? So what makes a cane toad or a rabbit invasive? So Andrew is going to answer that for
So
us.
we've got some questions about invasive species. First question here from Alexandra and Aggie from Victoria. How do you classify invasive species? It's quite an interesting question because it's basically species that are introduced here into Australia that are not native, so they don't occur here naturally, and they cause economic or environmental problems. So it's very much a human take on the impact that those species have within our systems here. Now, you can introduce species and they can just sit there and not really do any harm. They become a little bit adapted to the environment, or they're introduced and they go extinct because they're not adapted. Those species that kind of sit there and don't really cause a problem are actually called naturalized if they're able to survive here. But the problem is that if you've got a number of naturalized species that are sitting around and maybe the environment changes or becomes more beneficial for them, then those species can actually start to become invasive and they can start to become established and they can start to cause the problems with our environment and linked to our economy. And the biggest issue with invasive species is actually impact on agriculture. And there are some estimates out there in terms of this agriculture and environmental impact, also in terms of the control of those species. And it's somewhere between 10 to $75 billion a year of impact that these invasive species are having. One of the biggest problems is actually cats and feral cats. Between them, domesticated cats that are allowed to roam free and feral cats can take millions to billions of animals a year in prey. So it's the number one species to really help control. And if you own a cat, then make sure you keep your cat indoors. And there are several new legislations that are coming through at both state and council level that are encouraging cat owners to keep their cats indoors, particularly at night, but also during the day.
There you go.
Here we go.
Cats. We told you.
Keep them indoors.
Keep them indoors. Except if they're on the stage performing in cats, although they're humans. Anyway, that's another story. We're going to jump straight into Don. No, we're not. Sorry, we already answered your question, Don. We're going to go to Jimmy, who is from Subiaco?
Subiaco, yeah, WA.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. You sent in a few questions, Jimmy, but we're going to answer one of them, and that one is, can plants be a dangerous invasive species? So we talked a lot about animals, but what about plants? And so Andrew's going to answer that for us again.
So our second question is from Jimmy Anderson, and he says, can plants be dangerous invasive species? And the answer is yes. Plants, and maybe not in the triffid variety, but certainly plants can be as destructive as animals when they are introduced and become invasive. There's actually a list here in Australia of weeds of national significance, and there are 32 plant species that are listed on that list. Things like fireweed, things like broom, things like cat's claw. And these are all species that really start to become established within agricultural systems and start to choke our production of our crops, or make their ways into natural systems and start to choke off some of the natural vegetation. Blackberries are a really good example. Some of us like to go blackberry picking at autumn time, but blackberries are a really invasive problem, particularly in natural ecosystems. They tend to occur along watercourses, and they choke out the other native species within those watercourses. So there are a lot of control mechanisms that are underway for these invasive species, being able to remove those physically, being able to introduce herbicides or other kinds of control measures, or even some biological control measures. And whilst we heard with the cane toad was a bit of a disaster in terms of biological control. It was originally introduced to control the cane beetle, and that didn't work. Our knowledge now of appropriate biological controls is much more advanced than the times when cane toad was introduced. So we should not look at biological control measures for many of these invasive species.
There you go. I didn't realise blackberries were an invasive species.
Me neither. And I actually quite like them.
Yes, so do I. Now I feel really guilty.
But no, if we're eating them, then we're getting rid of them.
That's true, but we're
helping.
also encouraging the production of them, I suppose. So,
yeah.
look, I'm not going to overthink it for this Friday. We've got one last question that Professor Andrew is going to answer for us, so I'll get that straight out of the way. And this one comes from Antonio from William Carey Christ School, Prestons. It's a long name. Is there an invasive species that got wiped out of Australia? So is there a species that we've been able to eradicate, get rid of? Let's find out.
Our next question is from Antonio, the William Carey Christ School. Antonio says, or asks, is there an invasive species that got wiped out in Australia? It's actually a really good question, because we do think that once invasive species are introduced to Australia, then there's no hope. But actually there were some really good examples of invasive species that have been wiped out. Perhaps one of the best is the prickly pear. And there was a biological control agent, a moth, that was introduced. Prickly pear used to be rampant right across Australia, particularly across the arid lands. And the introduction of this biological control actually paved the way for the removal of this cactus species. And now there are a few individuals that exist across Australia, but the species has very much been controlled. Other good examples are actually with our islands around Australia, and there are some very effective control measures to actually remove some of these invasive species, particularly animals, from islands. Been quite good eradication programs with rabbits and cats as well on some of our island systems. It's much more difficult to remove invasive species from the mainland though. But there is quite a program that's underway to remove feral deer and also feral goats. And there are some really good wins that are underway. For example, I live here in South Australia in the Mount Lofty ranges. And there has been a very effective control program underway for feral deer here within the Mount Lofty ranges. And there have been some tens of thousands of deer that have been removed over the last 2 to 3 years. And if we continue that progress, then feral deer will be eradicated within the Mount Lofty ranges. But I think when thinking about control of invasive species, the first thing to do is to stop them coming in. So that's why we have such stringent border controls. That's why when if you travel internationally and come back into Australia, you will be asked questions about whether you've got any seeds with you, seeds from plants. And one of the key reasons for that is that those plants can become established as invasive species. The other problem is actually in the pet trade. And certainly going through a reputable pet supplier, it's no problem to have pets at home, but don't release those pets into the wild. So particularly fish, and it might be, thought that it might be a kind gesture to release fish into local waterways or flush them down the toilet if they're no longer of interest. But particularly fish can become established as invasive species. So I think the first thing to do when thinking about control of invasive species is stop them coming in. The next thing is, if they become established, then it's having an effective surveillance program to intercept those invasive species. And there are very strong programs that are run by natural resource management programs and also by councils to actually effectively control and patrol our roadside verges. And being able to control and remove invasive plant species as soon as they become established, then stops the problem really becoming much more widespread. If you're not able to stop them, you can certainly contain invasive species within certain regions, but if they become much more widely established, then broader control mechanisms such as biocontrol or widespread removal of those species will need to be considered. But the cost of those is massive compared to effectively stopping new invasive species becoming established here within Australia. So let's try and keep those invasive species out.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Stop it before it becomes a big problem.
Yeah. Don't bring seeds
No.
into the country.
Or fish.
Or fish. Yeah,
Don't
that
put
was
the fish down the toilet.
Yeah, I don't think you should flush your fish down the toilet anyway.
No.
I just want to, Sophie from Rendlesham. Hey, Sophie. Sophie has a public service announcement for us all. Don't eat rabbits.
Oh.
Okay.
But, okay. What do we do?
I
What do we do
wasn't
with them?
planning on doing it. I mean, you could have them as a pet. They make very
true.
cute pets.
It's true. Yeah.
But don't eat them.
Don't eat them. Okay.
I also just wanted to do a bit of a cleanser for us. I'm going to go to the laughing kookaburra, who's always tuning in with some jokes.
Oh, here we
You
go.
ready for this? What do toads drink?
What do they drink?
Coca-Cola.
We need a sound effect for there.
You can do it.
I'll do that.
What's a toad's favourite sweet? Lollipops. And finally, how did the toad die? He simply croaked. Or croaked it.
Kind
maybe.
of sad.
Thank you as
Thank
always,
you, Laughing
Laughing
Kookaburra.
Kookaburra, for your jokes. So, let's see what we have here. Oh, Raf from Ichunga. Hey, always tuning in, Mr. Hurd's class. Good to see you. Raf wants to know, are cane toads poisonous to people? Because they are poisonous.
They are poisonous, but they are not toxic to humans. They'll make you sick, obviously, if you decide to go and lick a toad, which I don't know why you would. Or if you pick up a toad without gloves on and then, eat something, you'll probably get sick. But no, they will not. You will not die from these toads.
There you go. I'll also stick with the Chunga. Jaden asks, how many eggs can they lay at once?
Ooh, a lot.
A lot.
Between 8 and 30,000 eggs at one go.
So many.
That is huge. That's why there's more than 200 million of them now, currently. Probably more in Australia.
And now I think you answered this in the story, but refresh us. Richard from Pedare College wanted to know, where did the toads come from?
Yes, the toads originally came from South America. So that is where they are native, and they were used in crops, or they were good at eating the beetles in sugarcane crops there. They were taken to Hawaii as well, and they were used in Hawaii for the same reason, and they actually were quite successful there as well, which is then when Reginald, the man who brought them into Australia, thought, this will be good for our Queensland sugar farmers, brought in a crate of 102, I believe it was. Yes, 51 males and 51 females, and the rest is history, except it didn't work in Australia. The toads were not effective.
And now we have a lot of mad Farmer Joes.
Exactly.
And I will say you're not alone, because Oscar from Edith Vale Primary said, hey Joe, guess what? I'm mad about it too.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm not alone.
So you're not alone. Oscar is also dealing with this as well. I'm just going to say Jimmy from Subiaco also says, hi Joe.
Hello, Jimmy.
And then just while we're on the topic of Joe, Amara from Yucca says, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Amara, and I'm new to BTN. I started 5 weeks ago.
Welcome.
We love new viewers. And they said, I've never seen Joe report. Why? Because you do report, but not always on BTN.
No, I am spread across some of our other programs, mainly BTN High, which is our high school show. So,
Yes.
when you guys finish primary school, you'll be able to see a bit more of me, probably. Yeah. But every now and then I make an appearance here on BTN.
Yes.
And, do something silly like I did with cane toads.
Yes, it's always fun to have Joe on. And you will be on... oh, no, wait, maybe you're not. Anyway, you'll be sure to see more.
You'll see me around.
Joe's done a lot of stories as well, so you can go onto the website and just look at his back catalogue of work.
Hope you like it.
But thank you, Amara, for sending in. You do have a question as well. Oh, no, it's a joke.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, all right.
I've got the ready. Let's do it.
What do you get when you come across a candy cane and a toad?
Oh, I wonder where this is going. What do you get?
A cane toad.
There we go. Very
There
relevant
you
to the
go.
story. I like that.
Yeah. The other one's not as relevant, so I won't read it. Gabby from Yucca says, what is the most common invasive species in Australia? We have answered that. It is a rabbit.
It's a rabbit,
But
yes.
also, cats actually cost the most. So cats do the most damage. And I wonder if there's a question here about how many invasive species we have. Pardon?
38.
Oh, here we go. Oh, there it is. Ewan from Shenton College asks, how many invasive species are there in Australia?
There are more than 3,000? More than 3,000 invasive species in Australia. And Close to 3,000 invasive species. So quite a lot. That's, of course, animals and plants. And it costs Australia, how much? 25 billion, was that right? $25 billion per year.
I didn't even know that there were 3,000 animals. I mean, I did probably if I thought about it for long enough. But like,
insects.
It's true, yeah.
So many different animals.
Yeah, insects, big animals.
I wonder if, how does it work in the ocean? Because if they swim here,
That's true,
on
yeah.
their own accord, are they invasive? I guess. Or if they're birds and they fly a really long way.
Yeah.
Wonder if that's
a
ever
good
happened.
point.
Gabby also hates the cane toads.
Thank you, Gabby.
No one's said whether or not they... Oh, look. Room 9 from West Greenwood Primary says, what's really wrong with having cane toads today anyway? They look cute and friendly.
Cute
Class
and
pet,
friendly?
maybe. Oof. Class pet?
I mean... you could probably... No.
I don't think so. I think, honestly, get a rabbit.
Yeah. If you've when you see a cane toad, they're just a bit warty and bumpy and slimy, and they don't make a good noise either.
That doesn't mean they're not
therapy dog.
cute. Yeah, get a therapy dog.
Yes,
A
therapy
dog's
dog.
invasive species.
Are they?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's some wild
I guess they
dogs.
probably are.
Yeah.
Look, I think we're going over time. I just want to shout out Aspendale Gardens Primary School. They are insistent animals and deserve to live, Ayla says. Yeah, I mean, look, it's unfortunate that here in Australia they are pests, because in other countries like South America they're
native.
They're native. So in some places they're considered good. Anyway, I wasn't meant to answer your question then. William Carey Christian, Banyule, Chapman Primary School, Canberra Grammar School, Hurstville, Elwood. Always got Yucca and homeschooling. We have Subiaco. Am I saying that right? I hope so.
Yeah,
Shenton,
Subiaco, yeah.
Subiaco. Bribie Island State School.
Bribie Island.
Is it a cane toad? It is a cane toad. St. Patrick's, Warilla, Canterbury, St. Bernard's, Rendlesham, as always. Thank you, Rendlesham. Edith Vale, St. John, Ichunga, thank you so much. And a few schools that are they've just written gibberish, so I can't. It just says, but thank you so much
Thank you all very
for
much.
tuning in. Thank you, Farmer Joe, for
Thank you.
joining us.
And thank you to Professor Andrew for...
And you've calmed down a lot since we first started.
I've come to realise that cane toads are here to sort of stay, but we can't control them.
And we can. We are working to control them. Everybody's going to
control them with this.
No, we will do it through other methods. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is our last BTN Live for the term, but don't worry, we will be back next term, and we will have another episode of BTN next week, so make sure you watch that. And of course, Newsbreak, BTN High. Go and search Joe on BTN and look at his entire back catalogue, particularly who was it? Amara,
yes.
So there you go. But yeah, have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you when we see you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, no, angry Joe.